Perseverance rover discovered something nobody wants to believe. With the latest technology at our hands, we humans can now peer back into the virtual origin of the universe. We have learned much about the laws of nature that control its seemingly infinite celestial bodies, their evolution, motions, and possible fate. Yet equally remarkable, we have no generally accepted information as to whether other life exists beyond us. This is what the Perseverance rover has been trying to prove for years, and recently it has taken a look at something no one's ever seen, scraping away at rocks on the surface of Mars. So, what has NASA discovered? Welcome to Space World. In today's video, we are going to talk about a mind-blowing discovery made by NASA's Perseverance rover that nobody wants to believe. So if you want to know more about it, then stay with us until the end of the video. Discovering new life on Earth over the recent decades had profound impacts on scientists' understanding not only of life on our planet, but of the potential for life elsewhere in the solar system. Scientists believe that if life could thrive 10,000 feet beneath the sea, then perhaps it could thrive on other planets too. Planets like Mars. However, according to many scientists, it seems unlikely the Martian surface, exposed to the harshness of space, could contain anything but the ghostly relics of existence, as the planet is too dry and too cold. But many believe that not only does life exist on Mars, but NASA has already discovered it. Searching for life on other planets has long been an ambition of scientists and researchers who wanted to prove the existence of life on other planets in the universe. Now it looks like scientists found life on Mars decades ago. According to a former NASA scientist, Gilbert V. Levin, we may have already discovered the essence of life on Mars 40 years ago. Levin was principal investigator on a NASA experiment that sent Viking landers to Mars in 1976, and he published an article in the Scientific American journal recently, arguing the experiment's positive results were proof of life on the red planet. The experiment, called Labeled Release (LR), was designed to test Martian soil for organic matter. It seemed we had answered that ultimate question, Levin wrote in the article. In the experiment, the Viking probes placed nutrients in Mars soil samples, and if life were present, it would consume the food and leave gaseous traces of its metabolism, which radioactive monitors would then detect. And that's exactly what happened, according to Levin. However, other experiments failed to find any organic material, and NASA couldn't duplicate the results in their laboratory. So, they dismissed the positive result as false positives, some unknown chemical reaction rather than proof of extraterrestrial life. NASA concluded that the LR had found a substance mimicking life but not life, said Levin in his article. Inexplicably, over 43 years since Viking, none of NASA's subsequent Mars landers has carried a life detection instrument to follow up on these existing results. Let's take a closer look at this experiment and find out what actually happened during the experiment. In 1976, a year prior to the RV Lulu's discovery 10,000 meters below the sea, NASA landed two beetle-shaped spacecraft, Viking 1 and Viking 2, on the surface of Mars. It was the first time the agency had reached the surface of the red planet. The landers were interplanetary laboratories, carrying a suite of instruments capable of detecting life. Only a few weeks after touching down, Viking started performing biological experiments with soil samples from the surface. The first results that trickled back to Earth were astounding, positive. So, staring at a flickering TV monitor inside NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, Gilbert Levin waited nervously with his collaborator Patricia Stratt as data from across the cosmos trickled in. It was the night of July 30, 1976, and Levin, a 52-year-old public health engineer with a keen interest in microorganisms, was receiving results from an experiment that had taken place over 200 million kilometers away on the surface of Mars. Inside a small chamber on the metal hull of Viking 1, a soil sample was being examined for signs of radioactivity. The test, known as the Labeled Release experiment, was designed to take Martian soil and spray it with a soup of radioactive nutrients. If there were microbes in the soil, they would slurp up the soup and release it into the chamber as radioactive gas. a response that could be detected by instruments on board Viking, and theoretically proved that life existed on Mars. On the night of the experiment, Levin's son, Ron, was stationed one floor below the biology team at JPL. He pressed his face up to a plastic window, watching data from the mission being printed onto fan-fold paper as Viking slowly sent results home. He could see through the window signs of a positive detection. He quickly ran upstairs to tell his dad and the biology team. Their tension dissipated. At around 9 p.m., the first full readout had been delivered to the lab, showing a sharp curve on the graph. It was the first sign life might exist elsewhere in the cosmos. "I was so excited I sent out for champagne and a cigar," Levin stated. However, additional experiments were required to confirm what the LR experiment was seeing. So a week later, Levin ordered a second sample to be taken and heated to 160 degrees centigrade, killing any microbes that might be in the soil, and then treated with the radioactive soup. This time the readout showed nothing, as expected. The pre-mission criteria for life detection had been satisfied, Ron says. Dad found microbial life in the soil of Mars. After that, in total, Viking performed 9 tests. All appeared to point to the same conclusion. But the excitement was short-lived as another experiment on the lander failed to detect organic molecules necessary for life, leading NASA scientists to hypothesize the LR experiment had detected an unknown chemical reaction taking place in the soil. They decided our experiment was wrong, Gilbert Levin says. But now, decades later, there are more and more promising signs. NASA rovers found organic matter on Mars in 2018, and just recently they found sediments that suggest there were once ancient salty lakes on the surface of Mars. What is the evidence against the possibility of life on Mars, Levin wrote. The astonishing fact is that there is none. Levin, a maverick researcher who has often run afoul of the NASA bureaucracy, has insisted for decades that it is more likely than not that we detected life. Now, he and LR co-experimenter Patricia Ann Stratt are calling for further investigation. NASA has already announced that its 2020 Mars lander will not contain a life detection test, Levin wrote in the Scientific American article. In keeping with well-established scientific protocol, I believe an effort should be made to put life detection experiments on the next Mars mission possible. He proposed that the LR experiment be repeated on Mars with certain amendments and then have its data studied by a panel of experts. Such an objective jury might conclude, as I did, that the Viking LR did find life, he wrote. So, why didn't other scientists believe Gilbert V. Levin's theory of life on Mars? Scientist Gilbert V. Levin's discovery wasn't steadfast with another experiment using a different method, the Viking molecular analysis experiment, returning no evidence of organic substances. The second discovery led to the conclusion that what Levin's probe had found was instead likely to be mimicking life, but not life. Levin, however, didn't accept the conclusions drawn from that second probe. In 2019, he wrote, "Inexplicably, over the 43 years since Viking, none of NASA's subsequent Mars landers has carried a life detection instrument to follow up on these exciting results." His belief that life had been found impacted the remainder of his career. But Levin didn't back down, instead citing the reasons he believed himself to be correct, that he believed the findings of the probe were best explained by the presence of life on Mars. He identified that the water levels found on the planet's seemingly barren, dry, and heavily irradiated surface, along with a perceived disequilibrium and the disappearance of methane in the atmosphere, implied that life was present. Levin also claimed that much of the microbial discoveries on Mars could have actually come from Earth. This theory was supported by NASA scientist Chris McKay, who agreed that the two planets had undoubtedly been swapping spit for billions of years. Levin's findings may have since gained backing after an experiment that indicated that microorganisms could survive in the brutal cold and radiation was carried out on the outside of the International Space Station, indicating that microorganisms could also live on Mars. Results presented in this study may increase awareness regarding planetary protection concerns on, for instance, the Martian atmosphere, which absorbs UV radiation below 190 to 200 nanometers, the findings said. So today, NASA's Perseverance rover is proving everything Levin proposed decades ago. And nobody is ready to accept that he actually proved the existence of aliens years ago. Now, scientists are working further in his provided direction, and it seems Levin's name will soon be cherished when scientists finally claim that aliens exist on Mars. And this is it for today, guys. What are your thoughts on today's video? Share your views with us in the comments below. Also, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell icon for more amazing videos about space. And thank you for watching.